Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, welcome to the APSSDC webinar. So, I hope you already know today webinar name. So, understanding and aligning to value in the business world. So, APSSDC is organizing the plenty of webinars on different technologies as well as entrepreneur point of view also. So, in the pandemic situation, in collaboration with different industry experts as well as professional experts, our team is conducting many training programs in the latest technology as well as business world point of view. So coming to the today's session, so today resource persons are Mr. Chaitanya Kovuri, the senior value advisor with SAP America in Chicago from United States, and as well as Mr. Justin Booms, so industry advisor at SAP. Again, he is also from United States. First of all, thanks both of you for coming forward for conducting this session for the especially for the AP candidates. Thank you both of you. So now handovering session to Mr. Chaitanya Kovuri. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome. The word value is typically used in the context of purchasing. Today I've joined with me Justin, as Murli described. We are sharing our screen here shortly. So when we think about the business world, we will hear much more about the word value, and we have a slightly different connotation. And I could say that it is one of the most commonly used word by executives. The presentation that's going to be handled by Justin and I will run for approximately an hour, and we'll have 15 minutes of Q&A post the presentation. As described in the agenda here, we intend to provide an overview of the common terms in the context of value. We will dive deeper into the elements and explain further with a few examples. We will also share how value is created and the 40,000-foot approach to measuring it. Most importantly, we would like to spend some time diving into why this topic is relevant and how you could strengthen what we call value orientation in your career and business conversations. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. We'll get started with brief introductions. You'll see on your screen a QR code now, and which you can scan via your mobile or click that link and it'll take you to the survey. We will get to see the results in real time. Justin, if you can transfer the presentation over to me, I'll present the screen. At this point, I only see one attendee. I'm guessing this is because of the attendees coming in from Facebook who are not probably clicking on this. Okay. So as you can, I was hoping to get a good feel of, how many of you are students and how many of you are from a professional background and how many of you are in the education space. But I appreciate, and hopefully I think that we'll get to know more shortly. Here today it's in Chicago. It's a beautiful Friday morning. It's 19 degrees centigrade, which we think it is relatively good weather for this time of the year. And as you can see, Justin has started the build out. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, Justin Booms. I grew up in Michigan. If you are familiar with the U.S., that's kind of the northern middle. We call it the Midwest. I went to the University of Michigan and I studied mechanical engineering while there. One thing you always hear is engineers, always a job for them, and they make pretty good money coming out of school. So saw a quote unquote lot of value in pursuing that degree. After a few years of working on different projects, I realized that there's a lot of value in understanding not only the technical side, but understanding the business side. So I decided to get my MBA at Kelly, which is in Indiana, right below Michigan. And after graduating from there, I got a job at SAP America in Chicago and started to attend the University of Chicago to get a second master's degree in analytics. Saw there was a shifting a shift in the business world more towards the quantitative, especially with things like machine learning and AI. So decided to bolster up my experience in that. But before going to Kelly, I worked at Subaru, a Japanese automotive company, for about 5 to 6 years before joining Kelly. So that is my path to SAP in Chicago. I'll pass it back to Chaitanya to give the route that he took.
Okay, thank you, Justin. On my end, I've completed my engineering in University of Madras, and I've worked for Deloitte for more than a decade in India and in the US. At Deloitte, I have worn the cap of a consultant, a customer, and a product manager. As Justin described, we both currently work for SAP. Many of you may know that SAP has its roots in Germany, with engineers from IBM who set out to develop a solution that brought together the aspects of supply chain and financials together. Today, SAP is a world-renowned firm that makes enterprise software. As my career trajectory took off, I got closer to the aspect of business value. Thanks to my family and well-wishers, I had the good fortune of completing my MBA at Chicago Booth School of Business. Here, the idea of value was truly instilled. Be it my resume, be it my communication with other leaders, I was communicating about the value in words that impact, that show impact and the impact that I delivered. It was not the project that I led, but it was the impact the project delivered to the company. As we stated earlier, our attempt today is to give you a feel of that value mindset. We will take another shot at the poll link now. Let's see if most of you can see the screen. I think I'm seeing some results. Justin, I'll share my screen briefly, and then let's see if the team can be successful in getting to this poll. So I think I see 9 students, and so mostly students, so that's good. Hopefully there are more listening. The next one was tell us a field of focus, if it's engineering, accounting, arts, or management.
And one other thing to note, if you missed the QR code or you're joining from Facebook, you can go to mentee.com and use the code 1872 and 12 to access the same survey.
Yep, the code is at the top here. Okay, that's great. We're seeing some interaction. Okay. What we had is another slide that gets a little bit into what is your understanding of value. So we will get into that shortly here. So please pick an option of which one describes value to you. Great.
We have one brave soul. Oh, wait, no, okay. Looks like a lot of people focused on the outcomes of an initiative. A few focused on identifying the cost. Well, looks like very few are focused on the return from an investment.
And for those that are joining in, please note that you could access this through mobile or through your browser by putting in menti.com and using the code 187212. Okay, that was definitely interactive. I hope you're enjoying this interaction, and we'll continue to do similar activities during this session. So I think the point that we wanted to articulate here was that if you were answering any one of these questions, you were probably not wrong. We all have been in projects or will be doing projects of some kind for the rest of our careers and lives. In the business world, it is common to hear the words business value, economic value added, value management, and value engineering. Let me start with the banner on the top. Warren Buffett, who is considered as one of the most successful businessmen, has shared that price is what you pay, value is what you get in return. This is indeed a simple way of describing the idea of value. Value exists not only in the benefits, but also by investigating the cost aspects of the equation. What cost could I potentially be avoiding? What costs may I incur if I didn't make an investment? The second visual here, which talks about Taiichi Ono, and his picture is shown here. He was considered as the father of the Toyota production system. In this system, everyone on the line or a production line was empowered to review and identify non-value adding elements and potentially eliminate them to improve the agility of the line, and in doing so, unlocking productivity and addressing the issues faster. And lastly, if there is one thing that I would like to leave you, then that is the idea that money flows in the direction of value. If you are talking to your leaders or a customer, if you can show value from your effort or your project or your initiative, then you have a sure shot path to securing investment. I'll now transition to Justin. He'll walk us through the various elements of the value.
In this section, we're going to cover what are the components of value, what do the components mean, and go through a few examples. So super high level, value is basically the benefits that you're getting from a specific action or a specific project minus the costs that you're incurring for that project. So if we go back to that poll, everybody, it looked like it was pretty even, but I would agree with the people who said a return on investment, at least from like a finance standpoint. But arguments can be made for any of the answers given. Now, these benefits can be broken up into quantifiable and qualitative benefits. So say you purchase a plant, a tomato plant. A quantifiable benefit that you're going to get is the tomatoes that come off of the plant. Now, a qualitative benefit you would get is, say, you just really enjoy gardening. So it gives you a peace of mind. It's kind of a reflective period that you have. That would be a benefit that you get in your life from having a tomato plant. Whereas, say, on the cost side, that can be broken up into expenses, opportunity costs, and risk. So on the expense side, it's basically the cost that you're going to have to pay for said tomato plant. The opportunity cost would be, what else could you be doing besides gardening? Say you hate gardening and you purchased a plant for some reason, which I've never purchased a plant, but my mom always seems to give me a plant, even though she's seen me be a terrible gardener and multiple plants die on my watch, which I feel bad about. So she started to give me a cacti, which I think is probably a smart decision on her part. But the opportunity cost would be, I enjoy playing tennis, so I would rather not be gardening when I could be playing tennis. So there's a pretty high opportunity cost for me. Now, the risk would be, you put in all this work and eventually your plant doesn't bear any tomatoes. So you've just wasted essentially all this time for nothing. Now we can put this in a business context. So on the benefits side, we're going to dive a little bit deeper in the next slide. So I'm not going to cover the left-hand portion, but on the cost side, our expenses can be broken up into capital expenses and non-capital expenses. There's a definition for each of these. So capital is mainly property, plant, and equipment, and it's typically a large upfront cost, whereas non-capital, that's going to be your cost of goods sold. So things like material and labors, or items or services that don't go directly into the product but are used for the company as a whole. So to make sure that the company is running. So things like pens and paper for the company, or the accounting department that doesn't really, they're not on the line building the product, but you need an accounting department if you're a large organization. Now that's typically an ongoing cost. These definitions can change slightly depending on what organization you're in, which country you're in, based on accounting rules. So we're just going to leave those somewhat high level, and after the presentation you can investigate for your specific company or your specific country what the definitions are and how to apply those in a value sense. Now, the final one is a hurdle or discount rate. This tries to factor in the opportunity cost and what else a business could invest in, as well as the risk for the future rewards that you're projecting. So if there's a high risk for it, you would typically have a higher discount rate because you don't know if you're going to get that benefit in the future. Also, there could be there's an expectation from investors in how much they want in return for what they're investing in a company. So the projects that occur within that company have to meet that expectation. So that's how an opportunity cost is factored into a hurdle or discount rate. Now, with risk, that can be simulated in a number of other ways. When looking at a business case or trying to figure out the value, you can do Monte Carlo simulation, but along with a few other techniques to try to untangle what the risk of a specific project is. But for right now, we'll leave it at the hurdle and discount rate. Diving a little bit into the benefits. side of what I showed. The quantitative and qualitative, pretty self-explanatory, but the quantifiable benefits can further be broken down into financial or operational benefits. Things put a number to. Now, for financial benefits, those are pretty straightforward and fall really into three buckets for increasing. You can either increase your revenue, you can lower your cost, or you can reduce the amount of working capital. I'm not going to dive too much into working capital right now because we don't have a lot of time. So I'll just kind of keep it at the increased revenue or lower costs. For operational benefits, that is talking about improving what matters to the business. And what matters to the business is typically financial benefits. So those operational KPIs or key performance indicators are typically eventually tied to financial benefits. So if we think about decreased cycle time for a production company, if you can decrease the overall cycle time of the processes on a manufacturing line, you can produce more widgets. So you can either lower your cost by maybe not having as long of a production shift, reducing overtime costs, or you can increase your revenue by being able to produce more widgets. So it really depends on where the company is at and what their overall objective is. Now you can reduce turnover, so you're not training as many employees, you're not going through a recruiting process, so you're lowering costs that way, or you can increase conversion rates of people coming to your website, people that walk into the store, so you increase revenue that way. But underlying, they are operational KPIs or operational benefits that you'll be getting. Now, we refer to those as value drivers. If you're reducing turnover, you're decreasing your cycle time, and we call those value drivers because, well, they're driving the end value by linking them to financial benefits. Now, there are also qualitative benefits. These are a little bit harder, if not impossible, to measure or make into a financial benefit. Some people will argue that these should not be included in a business case because following a smart framework for putting things into or putting benefits into a business case, it states that it has to be measurable. I personally disagree with that because there are certain benefits that, say, are tied to strategic initiatives of the company, and like, say, increasing customer satisfaction or corporate social responsibility, where projects will support those. But there's not a very obvious financial benefit, even though you can make a logical case for there being a financial benefit. If we're talking about increasing someone's brand or increasing brand awareness, there isn't a very strong, obvious causal link to, say, TV advertisement and increasing revenue. The studies just haven't been done. Now, companies like Facebook and Instagram and Google have come along where they have been very specific about measuring the value of their ads by doing A/B testing. So they would be able to make that kind of quantitative argument, but CPG companies as a whole, they just don't have the information to be able to make that quantifiable argument. And then finally, risk and compliance. How, like, say you invest in data security. If you're trying to quantify the benefits of that, there's going to be a huge probability component into what you're trying to quantify. So there's going to be an expected value benefit, but when you're talking to business leaders, and you're introducing probability, a lot of times they stop listening, especially if it's a high risk, low probability argument that you're trying to make. Now, I remember during my time at Subaru, I was trying to justify an inline measurement system. So measuring if panels are in spec. And I did all this research of linking dimensional issues with future warranty or future warranty costs to Subaru. And when I did this, I thought it took me forever, thought I did a really good job. And maybe a half hour before the presentation, I did a quick search on a few Subaru forums, and I just started pulling comments of people that complained about the fit and the look of different panels on a Subaru vehicle, and I just copy and pasted those in. After my presentation, nobody wanted to talk about the data analysis I did, or the research I did into warranty costs. All they wanted to focus on was the comment section of these forums that complained about the fit and function. So I would say business leaders care just as much about the quantifiable or qualitative side as they do about the quantifiable, because it speaks more to their emotional side. And really, to get a project off the ground, you need that like emotional buy-in from your business leaders. Now we'll go through a few examples. We have Ben & Jerry's, Twitter, and Walmart. So for Ben & Jerry's, have a qualitative example. Ben & Jerry's is pretty famous in the U.S. about how they are a very socially responsible company. That is one of their 3 pillars, and is very strong in their mission statement. And one example of this is their partnership with Greyston Bakery. Greyston Bakery is a bakery that employs pretty much people who have a difficult job of getting employed, people with very little previous experience, people who have gone to jail and are finding it very difficult to find a job, as well as people who have been homeless. And when the owners of Ben & Jerry's were at a charitable or social responsibility function, they met up with Greyston Bakery, and they decided to collaborate and make a flavor called chocolate fudge brownie. It's become one of their most popular flavors, and on each package of that, they tell this story about Greyston Bakery. Now, is it delicious ice cream? Sure, but one of the things that people pay a premium for when they're buying Ben & Jerry's, because it is an expensive premium ice cream, is they feel good about it, as they essentially feel bad about stuffing their face with this with ice cream. So it also allows the employees to have a very I guess a good feeling going into work every day, knowing that the company is more than just an ice cream company. They're kind of a change agent within society. So some of the benefits, obviously, brand image. Now, one thing that companies will do is they'll donate a lot of money to higher education. It's good advertisement for them, but B, there is a huge benefit from getting a better trained workforce. So companies will invest a lot into technical colleges if they're a technology company, just so they get first dibs on new recruits, as well as making sure that those recruits are up to snuff on the latest techniques and technology. Next is employee engagement. So Microsoft in Egypt, they saw that they had a turnover problem, and they were trying to figure out different ways to solve it. So one thing they did was allow employees to take a week off if they're doing volunteer work, and they ended up getting a huge amount of employees that took advantage of that and reduced their turnover rate. Now, not all of this. Obviously, there is some philanthropic, drive behind this, but also it's having business benefits. And the final one is probably the least philanthropic portion of it, but companies will invest in different areas depending on where they do business, just to gain favor with local governments. So you can't really put dollar value on any of these, but at the end of the day, it does help the company's bottom line. So it's important to include qualitative benefits within your analysis. Now I'm going to pass it off back to Chaitanya to cover a few more examples.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Now we talk a little bit about the social media world. So for those that are active using their devices, you may know that recently companies like Twitter, Google, Facebook, Apple, they were all on some form of review with the government of United States, and they always stay in review with some form of some government somewhere in the world. Firstly, a quick comment about what Justin described, firms trying to gain favor or firms trying to show the people aspect of what they're doing. If you've heard any of the conversations from these leaders, they described the impact that they were creating. Facebook has given access to many small business people through their websites. Apple has Apple and Google Play Store through their various front-end devices have been supporting developers across the world to give them new opportunities. Now, it is something that they are providing. It is a strategic benefit for the community, for the economy, but at the same time, it also helps them drive revenue. Now, let's take the example of Twitter. Justin described a quantitative benefit is something that is measurable. As you all know, Twitter is a social networking platform. Twitter's executives measure their growth through a KPI. A KPI means a key performance indicator. And Twitter's executives use what is called an mDAU. Now that might sound very complex, but what it really means is who are the active users on the platform who can help them make money. So at the time this particular article was published, Twitter was growing at a year-on-year growth. So it is a comparison between how much it has grown this year at this time over the same time last year, and it has grown by 187 million people. However, the market was expecting them to grow at a higher number. So the point to take away here is that when you like to pitch a project or an initiative to someone at Twitter, you could definitely influence them if you were to say that, hey, I can influence your mDAU metric. So in other words, anything that is measurable is a quantitative metric, and any project or investment that you want to think about, you would want to say, okay, which quantitative metric am I influencing? How can I identify these metrics that this particular firm or leader is supporting? What are they behind? Okay, so let's move to the next example. You all might have heard about Walmart. It is a famous retailer present in many parts of the world. It is estimated that Walmart loses around $300 million of goods each year. Some of them are, meat products. Some of them are various kinds of products. But it is a very sizable number. $300 million is a huge number. This number in the retail world is called shrink. Like we described in the earlier slide, this is a very quantifiable number. This is something that every store manager and all the way up to Walmart's leadership cares about. It is a quantifiable metric. Now, what is interesting is that when Walmart did an analysis across all the stores, it noticed that stores with store manager shortage had greater shrink or loss of goods. And what that really means is either the store managers were not present or they were not regular in their attendance, or something that related to the store managers not being as active as they should be. One may ask, why were they having these store manager shortages? And there could be a myriad reasons. It could be, the store manager engagement. They probably don't like to work. They're probably looking for a job elsewhere. Or their compensation wasn't enough, so they were not, making sure that they're checking on everything or being present everywhere. Or it might be just training. They might not have the right kind of training to understand where to place a good or where to move a good. Now, if you think about this scenario, addressing the store manager problem should be a key area of focus for Walmart and its leadership. And they rightfully are doing that. Store manager satisfaction, however, cannot be directly measured since it involves many aspects to be influenced, like we talked about. Hence, such areas are typically considered as qualitative aspects. And anything that we can do to influence that, a project, an initiative, will unlock qualitative or broadly classified under strategic benefits. And as this example describes, quantitative and qualitative benefits, so quantitative, which was the loss of goods, and qualitative benefits, which is the store manager productivity, store manager engagement, are both very important. And hence the important takeaway here is that a balance is always good. It is a coexistence of both strategic benefits and hard measurable benefits. And when you have both, like we talked about, money follows where there is value. Okay. Let's go into the next section, which is what creates value. So we wanted to use this section to get a bit more deeper into how or what creates value. We have classified it into three broad buckets. But the reality is that you will see that these buckets all seem to come together in some form or fashion, especially when you see successful firms and successful implementation of their strategies. We will describe the first two bullets with examples in the next slide and dive deeper into the area of business process change in the remaining slides of this section. Firstly, product innovation is when you take an existing product and innovate to make it useful to even wider audience, and in doing so, unlocking benefits in the form of growth for the business or reducing the cost to serve your customers. The second one is finding niches or specific areas or adjacencies and utilizing your current processes to expand into high margin opportunities. Sometimes that involves acquiring a business or involves changing your business model. Example, how a specific service to your customer is delivered. The net goal in the above two is to unlock or create more value, that is more revenue or more margin. So let's dive into the examples. Many of you may have tasted Oreo cookies. Some call them addictive and kids love it. When Mondelez took the cookie to China, the local market felt that this was a heavy product. Especially the younger women felt that they were too heavy. Mondelez utilized the same fundamental business process, but they said, if we need to appeal to the Chinese market, we need to probably come up with something that is thinner. So what they did was innovate on the product, and they ensured a similar cookie, which is the top section, and a filling, which is in the middle section. And so they ensured a similar cookie to filling ratio and arrived at a thinner version, and they called it Oreo Thins. Today, the thinner version is a hit in the North American market. And why? Because in the North American market, which was used to the thicker version, parents found that this version was both satisfying their kids, but at the same time helping them provide less sugar to their kids. Okay, so in this case, it was a new product, but it was not something extremely different. It was product innovation that supported value creation. In the next picture, we see MS Dhoni holding a bar of Snickers. What I want to drive here is that Snickers is part of a company called Mars Incorporated. This company has a focus on chocolates, confections, gums, chewing gums, and what they did was to utilize their scale to enter into pet food. So pet food is actually a big business in the United States and many of the developed countries, and probably will do in most developing countries as well. And most recently, they realized that given the size and magnitude of the business, the animal care space will also continue to grow. And what they did was they started moving into the animal care space. In doing so, they're banking on their strengths and securing market share and expanding the market share for their products. The last logo here, as you all know, is Netflix. Many of you know or may not know that Netflix originally started shipping DVDs. However, they always wanted to leverage the model of delivering the movie through the internet. And when the time was right, they became a dominant player in the streaming space. In moving from DVDs to digital only, they decreased their cost to serve customers significantly. By moving into the content space, which is creating programming, they are banking on their distribution, their reach of various customers, and also the insights of customers and their preferences. This may be an example where they have brought new products to suit customers, enter new markets given their platform. So they are in India, they are in other countries, and they have moved from a product which is a DVD based model to a content or a service based model. Net result, they are able to re-innovate and or innovate on across every area that we talked about and are creating value. In the remaining section, we will dive a little deeper into the business process space. And the business process space is something that we are taking a little more interest because this is what we will all get into as we progress within our careers. We will all be working for some firm, and the firm is probably providing some service or making some product. And it is always good to understand the end-to-end process. So what we'll do now is to go to the poll, and like we did before, please go to that link on top of, let me just read the code for you. Yep, it will be 187212. Let me share my screen. What we would like you to do is to identify this industry. If you press S, you will see the options, or most likely you'll see the options as well. Again, for those that are getting there, please type in menti.com and code 187212. Okay, I think we have a stable number here. So let me stop sharing and give it over to Justin. Justin, over.
Thanks, Chaitanya. So that picture was of the professional services value chain. Typically, it follows a specific path of selling and planning and engagement, recruiting and staffing for that engagement. Making sure that your work in process KPI is not too high, making sure that you're actually finishing these projects, as well as your days sales outstanding, making sure that the credit basically that you're giving your customer is not getting out of hand, and that you're getting your cash, so you have a cash flow or steady cash flow into your business. Now, each part of these value chains is in itself a process. So some of the things that are focused on in the sell and planning engagement is the bid management, making sure that you're providing the customer timely feedback. Obviously, this is important at any point, but making sure that when you provide them feedback, that you've analyzed previous bids, analyzed previous engagements, and you're providing them with a quote that makes sense for both them and your company. Project planning, making sure that when you create and you revise these engagement budgets, that you're able to do so efficiently, and that the information that you're feeding into them, you're not just pulling them out of thin air, that you're leveraging information that you have from previous engagements to plug into that project plan. So you're coming up with realistic timelines. And then for recruiting and staffing, making sure that you have the resources to staff your project with, and a full view of all resources available, as well as the skills of each of those resources. So you're making sure that you're putting the right people in the right place at the right time, and that you can track what their status is. And then obviously making sure that you're executing on the project. So doing really the blocking and tackling, or the that's a football reference. I'm trying to think of a better one, but doing basically the essentials for the project. So knowing what the accounting is, collecting the time of your resources and the expenses, so you're able to give the client a very accurate view into the costs that they are incurring, as well as insights into the plan and how you're tracking to what is actually happening in the real world. So then you're able to give the client, as well as your team leads, proactive information, as well as waiting for an issue to fester till it ends up hurting your future prospects with this customer. And then, yeah, for working and delivering, you also have to focus on project management, integrating the financials into your plan, so you're making decisions that aren't hurting your company, just saying yes to everything that the client is asking for. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to say no, as well as making sure that you have, again, making sure that your resources are hitting milestones that they need to be hitting to make sure that the project is delivered on time. Now, with any project, there's risk, and there's going to be change. Anybody who's been in engineering knows that when change management occurs, it's a lot more difficult to go back and change it, or change it midstream, than it is just to kind of plan for it up front so you don't have change. But it inevitably happens, so you have to be able to monitor where that change is happening, and making sure that you can forecast what the outcomes are going to be, and have that proper change management. And then forecasting and billing, you have project forecasting, so making sure, again, that you understand what the forecasted outcomes are, and making sure that, again, that you're going to be meeting that project forecast, and for future projects, you understand what is in the pipeline, so you can adjust resources and bids effectively. And then finally, project analytics. So making sure that that project actually delivered value, not only for your customer, but for your company as a whole, making sure that you understand how that's impacting your bottom line.
Justin, we'll skip this poll and we'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So we've just gone through a professional services company, and what is a professional services company, or a project and consulting services company? It is probably one of the most common things that we all know about, being in India. These are representing companies like TCS, which is Tata Consulting Services, Infosys, Wipro, Cognizant. So these are the huge firms that have essentially, if you look at their processes, that the way Justin described, all the way from bidding for the project to ensuring profitability, that is their value chain. So if you are in a firm like that, your thought process would be aligned to, am I being utilized? Am I contributing to the revenue? Am I contributing to the growth of my customers? Am I supporting greater win ratio? Those are the thoughts that you would think about as you develop or enhance your skills within that organization and you take a trajectory from a career standpoint. The slide that we see here now is a consumer products company. And what is a consumer products company? It is if you are using the Reebok shoes, or if you're using a Woodland shoe, these are consumer products. And consumer products also are your appliances, your washing machine. So or even your food and beverage, your Parle-G biscuits, the cookies we talked about, the Snicker bars, they're all part of the consumer products industry. And what we are trying to show here is you are the consumer, you are at the right side end, and the suppliers are the ones that are actually providing the raw material, and they are at the left end. And between this is where there is the business or the firm, and the firm is always thinking about product innovation, meaning what is the new product that we need to create. They're thinking about procurement. What is the lowest cost option for us to buy this? What is the best place for us to buy this? Are we sourcing from a organic product? And once they have those two identified, then they think about, are we manufacturing it just in time for our consumer? Are we manufacturing more? Are we manufacturing less? And then it's once you have manufactured it, it's important to get it to you when you need it. If it is the Diwali season, you want the stock of diyas, or you want the stock of sweets to be there in the store at least 2 weeks before, not too soon or not too late, right? And you as a consumer need to know what is happening. So sales and marketing is really where the consumer products take a lot of focus. They focus on the brand, they focus on the presentation, they focus on the incentives for the retail customers. For example, if it's a Reliance store or if it's a Walmart store, what is it in for them? Why should they carry their product? So if you think about the top section, this is where that particular industry is truly differentiating in terms of their business. That is how they're competing with another player. So if you are joining a company like that and you're joining one of these areas, you are probably thinking about the larger goal. How can I get more customers? How can I influence revenue? How can I decrease margin? How can I achieve the strategic goals of this company? Now, there is a very good chance that you might be joining the bottom three sections. And what is very interesting is that all of these sections are very important. And the first, one of the first representations of this model was called the Porter's value chain. He attempted to put all of the value-adding elements of this business together. So we talked about the top section. So on the back end, there are important functions such as HR, finance, and technology. Imagine being hacked into a manufacturing system, and which basically meant that the technology wasn't good, and your entire production of the product can come to a halt. And if production came to a halt, you wouldn't have enough product to sell to your customers. Imagine your employees not getting paid or being fined by a local authority for not paying the correct overtime charges. And in that case, you had a HR breakdown. Or think about not having the ability to put the numbers together to show to the financial markets. So while these three functions are in the back end, it is very important that all the functions work together. A great example is understanding how many defects that a line is having and understanding what are the skills of the person who is running that production line. Are there areas that this person needs improvement in training? So in that case, it was agile manufacturing and human resources coming together. Next slide, Justin. So, trying to describe this in a little bit more detail. On the left-hand side, you'll notice things that are not in the perfect world. On the right-hand side, you have the ideal world. In the current day, or even in the current days, these challenges are being faced by big and small firms. While automation and technology has advanced significantly, we continue to see opportunities to unlock value as business needs and situations change. And we are seeing that on a constant basis. This year, for example, has been a scenario where businesses have gotten impacted greatly and they are adjusting to it. Okay, we will move to the next slide here. And the intention of this slide here is to take one process. So we spoke about the consumer products company, and in a typical scenario, what we call an order to cash is a sub-process or an important part of the overall value chain. Somebody places an order, and once the order is placed, it needs to be fulfilled, it needs to be shipped, and it needs to be sent at the right time. Now, this is called the OTC process. But what you'll see here is we are identifying two big buckets. One is called effectiveness and another one is called efficiency. Effectiveness is, are we doing the right things? Are we focusing on the right business? Are we focusing on the right customers? We don't want to serve customers who are not really helping us from a profitability. We do care about them, but it doesn't mean that we don't look at other customers that are providing greater relationship or greater partnership with us. On the other hand, you have efficiency. Efficiency is, are we doing a specific job in the most efficient or the fastest way possible? Do we have the tools necessary? So if you think about the first pillar, we are investigating, do we have the right tools and are we doing the right things? And in the second pillar, we are trying to see on the same angle, are we able to do things faster, or is there a way we can automate that particular activity? We also see that there is a technology bucket out here, and that bucket really tries to explore, are our tools good enough? Are we achieving the scale and speed that we want? Okay. With that, I'd say, we are trying to build this bigger idea of how businesses think about value. They're always thinking about, are we doing the right things? Are we doing things fast enough? I will now hand it over to Justin to walk you through the specifics of measuring value.
Thanks, Achanya. So there's a pretty straightforward process for identifying the value. Now, the first two steps sometimes are swapped depending on when the person trying to identify the value gets introduced into that process. But we're going to assume that you are already working in that process. So I'm going to use an example from my past of working at Subaru at an automotive manufacturing plant. So the first step is know what your current state is. So understand how that process is operating. Understand the operational metrics or the financial metrics behind the process. Talk to the different people within that process, or understand how said process or said area benchmarks to others within the company or others outside the company, and understand the context around that process, understand what the new technology, say in automotive manufacturing is. So you're able to move to the next step of identifying a problem or an opportunity. So in my past, working at Subaru, say there was a problem on the main production line. You really have to understand all the processes within your area to really identify where that problem is occurring, and start doing some root cause analysis in the case of a problem. Start asking yourself why that's occurring. So say the main line's getting shut down. Why is that happening? Okay, they don't have enough, say, door panels that are being attached to the vehicle. Okay, why don't they have enough door panels? Well, there's not enough doors coming off of the sub-process that is producing the doors. Okay, well, ask yourself, why is that happening? Are the parts not being loaded fast enough when they're coming off the line? Are the parts not being loaded into the line for the robots to weld the doors together? Are they having a problem getting parts? Are the robots not welding it fast enough? Once you do this root cause analysis, or you identify the problem or a possible opportunity, then you can start figuring out what the solution is. So let's say all the parts are being loaded fine, all the parts are being unloaded from the line and given to the main production line fast enough. You can say that there's a problem within the automation of the actual door. So why is there a problem with the automation? Are robots breaking down? Are there not enough robots? Are sensors within the line shutting the line down, causing issues? Once you do that analysis, say you find that there aren't enough robots within the line, so there's not enough doors being produced, you can say a solution would be adding an additional robot to the line to make sure that welds are happening faster and doors are being produced in enough time. The next is to start developing the cost and the benefits. So in this case, tabulating the costs of installing a robot would be the actual labor it would take to install the robot, the price of the robot itself, and any future maintenance for that robot. And then you have to justify or figure out what the benefits are. So making sure the main line doesn't shut down. What's the cost of the main line shutting down is going to be the biggest benefit. So in that case, if you look at all the labor that is on the line, all the overtime cost that is being caused by the fact that they're having to shut down the line, that can be avoided, that can be identified as a benefit, and justifying those benefits. If you get enough doors, you're not going to have all of this downtime on the main line. So then finally, you calculate the value using classic benefit minus cost, understanding what the cash flows from this process is going to be. Now, not going to dive deep into any of the financial metrics like NPV or ROI or internal rate of return. That can be studied later because they're not like super complex, but there is subtleties that do take time to evaluate. But then once you have calculated those, then you have a solid business case to then bring to management, justifying why you would need to pursue this project of installing a new robot. Now, there's outside of business, I guess entrepreneurship is part of business, but outside of, say, working within a company, you can apply value in your real life. So entrepreneurs go through that process of identifying where there's an opportunity and exploiting that opportunity within the real world to obviously get huge returns. Now, one thing that venture capitalists factor into that when deciding which entrepreneurs to invest in is risk. There is a huge risk component in there. And that's why they make sure that the companies that they are investing in, there's a large return because, that's the biggest cost for these venture capitalists or venture or VC funds is essentially the risk associated with it. And entrepreneurs understand that. And that's why Jeff Bezos is is the richest person in the world, is because, he took a lot of risk putting essentially his entire life on the line to pursue starting Amazon. So that is one thing to consider within entrepreneurship. Going to pass it off to Chaitanya.
Thanks, Justin. And the next two sections are about interviewing and employment and application in real life. And we've been using these examples throughout. We talked about the professional services industry and how to drive value, what provides benefits, and how leadership out there thinks about it. We've talked about the consumer products industry and how the end-to-end chain works and where you can start to influence value based on where you are within that company. So let's come to interviews. When we think about an interview, there are two aspects that come to my mind in terms of value. One, where is this business trying to add or create value? Will this be supportive to my own journey and will this support my passion? And so by having the ability to understand what is that business doing, how are they able to create money, you are able to then say, am I interested in this particular area? Will I be able to support them? And so it's not just about having a salary, but here you are thinking about your goal and the company's goal. The next section is, what is the specific area am I focused on? What are the areas of value that I could articulate from my resume that might resonate with the interviewer? So you're looking at a specific area. You might not have all the skills, but how can you best articulate that so that they, as soon as they look at it, can say, oh yeah, this reflects the capability to deliver value to me. So those are two aspects for you to think about when you are going through interviews. The second thing is, once you are in an employment, so you are working for somebody, it is very similar. You start to think about, what is this project about? Who are the various teams involved? What are they trying to do? How is this going to contribute value to my organization or group? And so by thinking across these various elements, you are helping the goal, you are potentially prioritizing your time, and you are probably being more passionate in what you're doing. Okay, so in net result, you're not thinking about this as a task, but you're thinking about this as an impact that you can make. In summary, you're taking a much broader view of the situation you are in and are positioning yourself to put the best foot forward. Next slide, Justin. Okay, thanks. In this particular slide, we try to think about a career journey. Our approach has been that initially, when one begins their career journey, sometimes one lands at a dream job, and sometimes we start enjoying and learning once we land in a job. As we start to gain experience, we start to get better, mostly in the horizontals. And when I say horizontals, it's areas like, you learn a little bit more about technology in a specific space, for example, front-end development, or maybe analytics or reporting. So, and there isn't any issue in continuing to further expand in the same horizontal if you are getting deeper within that specific area of the horizontal. Example, learning new technologies that are relevant to front-end development or learning new technologies that are relevant to reporting. However, as we see career growth and we've seen others, in this growth trajectory, it is very important to choose a vertical space. Verticals are typically the industries, and every industry has its own unique flavor, its own unique ecosystem, its own unique set of networks on terms of people who have trailblazed that specific space. Some industries are ahead of others because they get disrupted faster. For example, one can say that the retail and consumer products have embraced e-commerce faster than the life sciences industry, which focuses on drugs and devices. So you probably have not yet seen drugs and devices being sold through e-commerce and being shipped to your home. However, you could order things on Amazon, Flipkart, where your essential products are your what we call the consumer products, right? On the flip side, life science industry has long been pursuing opportunities that could potentially unlock insights from big data. So, it is about analytics, it is about molecules, it is about research. So, your passion and your focus will help you to understand which vertical or which horizontal you might want to choose, or once you are in one horizontal or a vertical, help you to further think about how you are contributing to that value. Our recommendation through this session is that there are unlimited resources available, and they are available through trade focus publishing, trade focus groups, podcasts. If you have not yet seen that, that is actually a growing space here in the United States. And there are analysts who either provide podcasts or are putting out blogs, and they are focused on horizontals and verticals. The information age has truly democratized knowledge. If you know what you're looking for, there is a way to find it, and it would only be restricted by potential paywalls. We hope this overview was helpful for your career journey, and we hope that you use these takeaways from the meeting to take a big picture view, understand and assess the impacts of your contributions, and carefully craft your paths to success. All the best. With that, we will turn it into Q&A. I think we have around 12 minutes for that section, so we'll follow the chat and address any questions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, sir. So all the participants, if you have any questions, if you have any interaction, just raise your questions in chat box or question tab. If anyone is want to interact with the resource person, just click on raise hand button. I will give permissions also. Yeah, Shambhavarao. I hope.
Hello,
Yeah, yes, Shambhavarao, audible. Shambhavarao, tell me.
sir. I have a question. Like nowadays, the commodities of the market are large in number, but many companies, many governments, why do they give permission to manufacture the degrade products? Like if any customer buy, it will not stand for long time. It will damage and it will replace within 5 6 months, like that. So by this they are wasting a lot of material, lot of time, lot of investment capital. So why don't we stop this kind of scenario in this markets
Yes,
business?
okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Justin, I'll take the question. Hi, thanks, Sambasivarao. I mean, to be honest, right? I don't think that a business that is not able to serve its customer can sustain in the long run. And whether it's governments have some influence and they could probably enforce some aspects, but if the product is not serving the customer's need, the business itself will cease to exist. But it will take some time. And so the point here is, if it's not adding value, they are probably not going to have good employees, and if they're not good employees, they're not probably going to have products at a later point of time.
Yeah, it sounded, I'm not 100% sure I fully understood the question, but it sounded like there was a component of government subsidies in there. Sometimes government subsidies are justified. Other times they can do more harm than good and kind of prop up companies that basically shouldn't be keep going. So to Chaitanya's point, in the long run, eventually those businesses should fail given a free market model. But if there's an external factor like government propping them up, then there's other systemic issues outside of just value to consider.
Hello.
Yes, Samshoro, yes, tell me. I hope it's clear. I hope. I think.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Any other?
And yes, actually, I have a specific idea about this all global countries system. Like majority of the countries, they are not focusing on balanced ratio of forests, population, living space, water bodies, and yeah, majorly these four, as far as I know. Because if these four the things are equally equipped in any country in the equal ratio, so it must can uh, withstand by itself independently in many ways. And moreover, nowadays many diseases and many hospitalized, but many countries are not good in food industries and good uh, uh, parks, gyms for all the people in the country. By this, the magnitude of hospitalization and this all increasing medical companies, this is all increasing. Because of this, the lot of land and everything is going away like anything. But if you replace them with good gyms or any playgrounds or swimming pools naturally, by this we can also save a lot of environment. And my one more idea is, whatever the water bodies present in all the countries, why don't all countries focus on planting the medical plants at the bank of the particular water bodies along the banks? So by this all will get some better medical uh, environment, food like that, with free of cost. And moreover, I'm thinking about somewhere barter system, because in Togo there is a country in Africa, they are following barter systems because of their incomes of the people is very less. So this is also other way of surviving the people. uh, and my one more idea is, and nowadays many companies, each company is asking to download apps. It is really disgusting for me, because we have to think about small end, medium end, and high end mobile smartphone users. All are not flexible to download all the apps. But my idea is to centralize all the companies with default apps, specifically with Google Maps and Google itself, Google Pay, like that.
Uh,
So they can,
yes,
yeah.
Samshoro.
Can you
Yeah,
please?
Samshoro. The most of the questions are maybe some irrelevant also there. So already national skill development is organizing the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So as a part, so national government as well as state bodies conducting different types of competitions, especially for the like world skills competitions. Like similarly after Corona COVID, so national government also launched the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So if you have add on any suggestions also, it is availability is also there. So better to raise these questions or better to give suggestions on that particular area. Okay, sir. Any add-ons, sir? Chaitanya sir as well as Justin.
No, nothing. I think Mr. Sambasar is up to something. Wishing him all the best, and those that attended today. Thank you for attending.
Nope, did not have anything to add. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So audience, any other questions regarding this issue?
It looked like one person asked how to start their own business. I mean, just a lot of market research and a lot of research on justifying a business plan. There's a lot of resources on how to develop a business plan and the steps that you need to take to. I'm not going to say make sure you're successful because there's risk involved, but to make sure that you have a good foundation. And it's really about identifying that opportunity when it comes to starting your own business. That's going to drive value for whoever your target customer is.
Yeah, Nagoti Ravikumar, I hope it's clear regarding this one.
Okay, Murli, I think it's time we probably should wrap.
Sir, one more question from the YouTube viewer, sir. How is the value creation going in the rural India, especially with farmers?
Great question, but I don't have the knowledge to answer it. I'll encourage them to investigate if they're passionate about that space.
Yes, fine, sir. So thank you all the audience. So again, APSDC is planning the different programs with industry experts as well as the just participate in the activities and try to learn many new things. And as well as similarly, APSDC conducting the many online programs also. So and before closing the session, I'm just share all those things with you. So APSDC in collaboration with Government of Andhra Pradesh, we are launching the 30 skill centers in the mode of final school concept. So this is one of a great opportunity for the youngsters for improving your skills. So recently we have collaborated with the many industries, done the MOUs with IBM like Dell Technologies, JCK, and many more. So for more information regarding the AP skill development activities, just visit our website. And for everyday announcement, you have see the online webinar on 5G network technology and React JS. One more programming. This is organizing by the Tech Mahindra team, and special training for the unemployed youth and MATLAB program. So many is there. So if anyone is interested, just register here. And once again, thanks to Chaitanya sir as well as Justin Booms for organizing and conducting wonderful session. And audience, and just now share the feedback form to you. Just share your suggestions and valuable feedback. So within 3-4 days, based on the feedback, so feedback is mandatory. We will issue the participation certificate also for all the candidates. Thank you, sir. Thank you both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Wish you
Bye-bye.
the same.